Zono Sports Show, where you know Zonos. Who's in, who's out of the college football playoff this year? Well, we waited until championship weekend and we got what we wanted. Actually, did we get what we want? We got a bunch of blowouts, but we know who's in and who's out now. Clemson's number one. They were dominant down the stretch of the season. Oklahoma number two. Baker the Shaker Mayfield. Georgia number three, and Alabama sneaks in at number four, even though they lost to Auburn in the last game of the season, their last game of the season, which was the Iron Bowl. Now, Clemson, they dominated Miami 38-3 in the ACC championship. They're obviously going to get that number one overall seed just because of their win differential and how they've dominated teams down the stretch. Miami, that turnover chain obviously didn't win them the games that they thought it would because the ones that mattered, they couldn't get done. All they had to do was win at Pitt and then at least compete with Clemson, not get blown out. And they couldn't do that down the stretch. So that lets me know that this year was a good season, but they were, in fact, a pretender. Oklahoma with two consecutive blowouts over TCU, the 38-20 win in Norman a few weeks ago was it on senior day? Maybe, but they blew them out a couple weeks ago, and then they come back and beat them, 41-17 this game in the Big 12 championship. So Baker, he just proves to be a problem for any team. I really look forward to see how this Georgia defense, they call themselves the Dogs, and they all have different classifications of what type of dog they are. I want to say Roquan Smith, the linebacker in the middle, refers to himself as the pit bull of the defense. So let's see if that pit bull can slow down Baker Mayfield because Baker makes magic. Now, Georgia, they're in at number three, as I stated. They got revenge and wore the Tiger stuff out of Auburn in the SEC Championship, 28-7, and I say that a play on words because Gus Malzahn after the game said, well, I guess we wore the dog, you know what, out of them. So Gus Malzahn, maybe you should calm down because the Auburn Tigers got wore out, partly due to the fact that Kerryon Johnson was obviously not completely healthy. That's due to the injury the week before with the shoulder. However, that's part of football. So Georgia finds itself looking at a national championship opportunity, maybe. Alabama gets in based on sustained success. Now, what do I mean by sustained success? I mean that Alabama has a reputation for having a good football program, for winning, for being there. They call this, Booker McFarland actually likes to call this the Alabama Invitational because they've been in every single college football playoff. So, obviously, they're going to get the benefit of the doubt in the last loss of the season to a team that beat two number ones. Now, the rematch with Clemson, I'm anxious to see that. I'm glad the committee did it this way because what it does is it leaves room for another national championship for us as fans to watch because nobody wants to see three finals in a row. We already saw that with Golden State. That's done. That's played out. We don't want to see college football champs go at it for the third consecutive year where they have a rubber match. I mean, this is college football. This isn't the NBA or pro sports. We want to see different stuff. We want to see a variety, not that he say, she say, chalk stuff. So I'm looking forward to seeing this matchup, the Clemson-Alabama matchup, because we won't have to worry about it in a national championship. And I think that for that reason, Alabama's lucky to be in. Clemson has been the best. This will be for sure the best game of this whole college semifinal and final series that we'll see. Number 8, Ohio State. They were actually left on the outside looking in. They beat number 4 undefeated Wisconsin 27-21. Now, me personally, I felt as though if Wisconsin did not blow out Ohio State, even if they won, there was absolutely no chance of them getting in. And Ohio State, they can't be mad at anybody but themselves. If you take away the 55-24 blowout at Iowa, that's a thorn in their side. Maybe they have a shot to get in, but the fact that they went up there to Iowa and got busted is, I want to say that's Kinnick Stadium. That's a no deal. You lost to Iowa by 30. That's a no deal every day, all day. Because, for one, the Big Ten is widely recognized as the weakest of the Power 5 conferences on a consistent basis. I mean, I think we can say that because we thought Michigan would be something. They weren't something in the Big Ten this year. So Ohio State couldn't hang their hat necessarily on that win. However, I was for sure that they would not get in unless they blew out Wisconsin, and they couldn't do that. Slim win, the loss to Iowa, it definitely stifles the Buckeyes, and their chances are done. And Wisconsin, for me, there was no way they were getting in unless it was a blowout because their schedule was far too weak. If we were comparing this to college basketball and RPIs, that RPI is crap for Wisconsin. Now, Heisman finalists, you got Baker Mayfield, 4,430 passing yards, 41 TDs. He's, of course, for sure going to be at the Heisman ceremony. He's been there, 2 years in a row? This will be the third year in a row that he'll be there. I think it's his award to lose. Lamar Action Jackson, he won the Heisman last year. Now his Cards, they're 8-4. However, he's got 3,489 passing yards, 1,400 rushing yards for 42 total TDs accounted for. So he definitely put himself in a position with the stats to maybe win the award for a second year in a row. Who knows? The voters may see it different because of off-the-field issues with Baker Mayfield. And Bryce Love played most of the year with a sprained ankle, but ran for 1,900 yards, 17 TDs. He's shown that he can for sure get the job done for Stanford. He's the only reason that they made the Pac-12 championship game and got a chance to play USC and almost beat USC in that championship game this past Friday, but they weren't able to. Bryce Love, a good player, and he'll be a great running back in the NFL at the next level if, in fact, his ankles can stay healthy, because he's had issues with his ankles all year. I want to say it's one ankle in particular, but if he can stay healthy, I think he'll be a speedster and a great back at the next level. Now, NFL-wise, things have got to get better in New York. Eli, he was benched after 210 starts, and you ask yourself, was it ridiculous or not? Well, I'd say I don't think it was that ridiculous, because for me, Eli, he's got the 2 fluky Super Bowl wins on Hail Marys up to Mario Manningham and David Tyree. But yeah, he's won those Super Bowls. However, I can't remember the greatness of Eli Manning that everybody refers to. I mean, yeah, he's had great players around him who have helped him to accomplish great feats, which every quarterback does. However, Eli Manning, to me, he is not the entire cake. He's the cherry on top. He's not a guy who's going to bake a whole meal up for you, but if you can keep it in the oven, eventually when it pops out and it looks kind of done, he can hop on top and make it a masterpiece. So Eli Manning, for me, is a quarterback that's always been pretty good, but I'm not going to put him on the level of great. Now, that Hall of Fame statue may be waiting on him in Canton simply because of the 2 Super Bowls and his last name's Manning, but I'm not going to say that he's great. Now, as far as coaches go getting fired, Ben McAdoo and Jerry Reese, they're the GM for the Giants. They were the GM and head coach for the Giants. They are both fired. Now, Ben McAdoo had it coming. The slick hair doesn't keep him a job. He couldn't win the games, and he lost the team. So, I mean, if you look at the coaching changes across the country, and I missed one, meant to bring it up discussing college football, but look at Tennessee. They've got to get somebody in here who can right the ship. Philip Fulmer just got hired as AD, so there's obviously some hope that people who believe in tradition will come and work for Tennessee, coach under Phil Fulmer. You wonder what he's going to do. Now I wonder what the Mariners are going to do with the Giants. Who's the head coach if they're going to get in there? Because Tom Coughlin, they booted him out of town. But for what? Ben McAdoo, for 2 or 3 seasons? He wasn't the guy. The Giants need to find a guy. The Tennessee Vols need to find a guy. Coaches, if you need to talk to someone about potentially being able to do a fantastic job at places that may not be the most fantastic place right now, call me up. I'll give you some advice. And also, back to NFL, Philly, they had a 9-game win streak snapped in Seattle. Russell Wilson was amazing. He had the flip play. His improvisation is impeccable because he finds a way to make a play, make chicken salad out of nothing. Carson Wentz struggled in a championship environment up there in Seattle, so I wasn't too pleased with that because, yes, he's a great quarterback, but he did have his struggles. Made some good throws, but I don't like him struggling in a championship environment with the Legion of Boom not healthy, where you got no Cam Chancellor and you have no Earl Thomas, but you still lose by 2 touchdowns. I wasn't a big fan of that. The Patriots throttled the Bills. Rob Gronkowski, he had the stinky play against Tre'Davious White from LSU, and Ryan Clark says after the game, Tre'Davious White texted him and said the whole hood want him. So essentially, I guess that means that they want to put hands on Rob Gronkowski because the play was dirty, and Rob Gronkowski's going to have to serve a 1-game suspension. They want to get that type of stuff out of football, and hopefully they do because there's no room for that. Gronk knows better than that. Gronk bad. Now, Monday Night Football last night, the Steelers had a 17-point comeback against the Bengals. Final score 23-20. The physical game was marred by cheap shots and injuries. There was a shot by George Iloka on AB Antonio Brown in the end zone. And there was the shot by Juju Smith-Schuster on Vontaze Burfict, who's known for doing some cheap shots himself. However, Juju's was pretty bad. And then also, there was the Ryan Shazier scare where he hit hit the player Josh Malone, the wide receiver, with his head down, and was seen laying motionless on the field from at the lower half of his body. He can move his arms, but couldn't move his lower body, so everybody was scared about that. However, good news is that a teammate said that he did hear from Shazier that he could feel all his extremities in the hospital, and the injury won't require surgery, and he could be back in Pittsburgh tonight. So what could have been bad turns out a little bit good, but definitely football's a dangerous sport. So I really hope the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Cincinnati Bengals can find a way to clean up this rivalry, because people don't need to be getting laid out like this where they're incapacitated and can't move and get up off the field under their own power. Now, college hoops-wise, LeVar Ball, I got to talk about LeVar Ball. Pulls LiAngelo Ball out of school at UCLA, and I wondered to myself, what went on with this conversation? Was it, listen, Steve, how long is my boy going to be suspended? Because is he going to be playing second semester? And Steve Alford probably said, well, it's indefinite. So I can't tell you that, LeVar. And LeVar gets mad and says, well, we're going to go check out some other stuff. Now, for me, what are Big Baller Brand's core values? Your son could potentially have been locked up in China for a minute. He comes back over here, gets an opportunity to still be on the team, was not dismissed, and you yank him out to explore their options. What are you teaching him? Are you saying that, hey, big ballers, you can do whatever when you're a big baller, even if it's bad, and if it doesn't work out, you just go do something else? Now look, LeVar's kids are way older than mine are, so all I can say is, LeVar, you've got to be a leader. And leaders don't make a person feel entitled to the sense where they feel like they can do things like this, put themselves in jeopardy, and then, we can just fix it with a Band-Aid. So I really hope that people take notes from this situation and with their children and understand that there's consequences to your actions. So just because there's consequences don't mean you can fix it with a Band-Aid, because you've got punishment and penalties. LeVar, they're not on your time. UCLA's on their own time. They gave him the scholarship. So I guess you're going to take the young man out of school, and he's going to do his thug thizzle. And you're going to train him and get him in the NBA? I heard he wasn't that good. But that's none of my business, right? As the Kermit Frog people would say. Now, NBA-wise, there were ejections all this past week. Ejections are becoming more prevalent among the stars. The notable one, LeBron was ejected for the first time in his NBA career last week by Kane Fitzgerald, which I'm sure some people maybe make a Halloween costume of him next year, but it may be too far off because Halloween just passed. But Kane Fitzgerald ejects LeBron because he threw an air punch and spit a whole bunch of vulgarities at him. So LeBron, nobody's perfect. Don't be that guy. But I love the fire. But understand there's kids watching, Brian. Now, the person who really needs to understand there's kids watching, KD's ejected. He has been ejected twice within the past week. Now, what are the reasons KD has been ejected? He's been getting into it with officials. He got into it with DeMarcus Cousins last night. However, I think this is more a frustration with himself. The Twitter stuff with the fake account, trying to respond to people. Is he trying to revamp his image by being a more aggressive basketball player? That's what I gather from watching KD, who never used to get ejected twice within a week. Come on, KD, you're better than that. He just says, I got to be more patient. Well, you do, KD. And stop making fake Twitter accounts and stop worrying about people say about you. Maybe you wouldn't be so frustrated. Golf-wise, good news this past weekend. Tiger Woods found some old juice in that back. He competed in the Hero Challenge, shot lower than 60 twice, finished, around mid-10 to 13, somewhere around there. Tiger Woods, if he can rekindle and revamp the old Tiger that we have come to know and love, then I think golf will be much better for it. And Jordan Spieth, Rory McIlroy, Dustin Johnson, y'all better watch out. Now, that's all I got for you today. Make sure you check out the Zono Sports Show next week, because I always got the juice for you. Keep watching the Zono Sports Show, where Zonos.